Beau Tibbs by Oliver Goldsmith. Though naturally pensive, yet I am fond of gay company, and take every opportunity of thus dismissing the mind from duty. From this motive, I am often found in the centre of a crowd, and wherever pleasure is to be sold, I am always a purchaser. In those places, without being remarked by any, I join in whatever goes forward, work my passions into a similitude of frivolous earnestness, shout as they shout, and condemn as they happen to disapprove. A mind thus sunk for a while below its natural standard is qualified for stronger flights, as those first retire who would spring forward with great vigour. Attracted by the serenity of the evening, a friend and I lately went to gaze upon the company in one of the public walks near the city. Here we sauntered together for some time, either praising the beauty of such as were handsome, or the dresses of such as had nothing else to recommend them. We had gone this deliberately forward for some time, when my friend, stopping on a sudden, caught me by the elbow and led me out of the public walk. I could perceive by the quickness of his pace, and by his frequently looking behind, that he was attempting to avoid somebody who followed. We now turned to the right, then to the left as we went forward. He still went faster, but in vain. The person whom he attempted to escape hunted us through every doubling, and gained upon us each moment, so that at last we fairly stood still, resolving to face what we could not avoid. Our pursuer soon came up and joined us with all the familiarity of an old acquaintance. "My dear Charles," cries he, shaking my friend's hand, "where have you been hiding this half a century? Positively, I had fancied you were gone down to cultivate matrimony and your estate in the country." During the reply, I had an opportunity of surveying the appearance of our new companion. His hat was pinched up with peculiar smartness. His looks were pale, thin, and sharp. Round his neck he bore a broad black ribbon, and in his bosom a buckle studded with glass. His coat was trimmed with tarnished twist. He wore by his side a sword with a black hilt, and his stockings of silk, though newly washed, were grown yellow by long service. I was so much engaged with the peculiarity of his dress that I attended only to the latter part of my friend's reply, in which he complimented Mr. Tibbs on the taste of his clothes and the bloom in his countenance. "Sha, Charles," cried the figure. "No more of that if you love me. You know I hate flattery. On my soul I do. And yet, to be sure, an intimacy with the great will improve one's appearance, and a course of venison will fatten. And yet, faith, I despise the great as much as you do. But there are a great many honest fellows among them, and we must not quarrel with one half because the other wants breeding. If they were all such as my Lord Muddler, one of the most good-natured creatures that ever squeezed a lemon, I should myself be among the number of their admirers. I was yesterday to dine at the Duchess of Piccadilly's. My lord was there. "Ned," says he to me, "Ned," says he, "I'll hold gold to silver I can tell where you were poaching last night." "Poaching, my lord?" says I. "Faith, you have missed already, for I stayed at home and let the girls poach for me. That's my way. I take a fine woman as some animals do their prey. Stand still and swoop, they fall into my mouth." "Ah, Tibbs, thou art an happy fellow," cried my companion, with looks of infinite pity. I hope your fortune is as much improved as your understanding in such company. Improved? Replied the other. You shall know, but let it go no further. A great secret. 500 a year to begin with. My lord's word of honour for it. His lordship took me down in his own chariot yesterday, and we had a tete-a-tete dinner in the country, where he talked of nothing else. I fancy you forget, sir, cried I. You told us but this moment of your dining yesterday in town. Did I say so? Replied he coldly. To be sure, if I said so, it was so. Dined in town, egad. Now I do remember, I did dine in town, but I dined in the country too. For you must know, my boys, I eat 2 dinners. By the by, I'm grown as nice as the devil in my eating. I'll tell you a pleasant affair about that. We were a select party of us to dine at Lady Grogram's, an affected piece. But let it go not further, a secret. Well, says I, I'll hold 1,000 guineas and say done first, that. But dear Charles, you are an honest creature. Lend me half a crown for a minute or 2 or so, just till, but harkee, ask me for it the next time we meet, or it may be 20 to 1, but I forget to pay. Pray. When he left us, our conversation naturally turned upon so extraordinary a character. His very dress, cries my friend, is not less extraordinary than his conduct. If you meet him this day, you find him in rags. If the next, in embroidery. With those persons of distinction of whom he talks so familiarly, he has scarce a coffee-house acquaintance. However, both for the interests of society and perhaps for his own, heaven has made him poor. And while all the world perceives his wants, he fancies them concealed from every eye. An agreeable companion, because he understands flattery, and all must be pleased with the first part of his conversation, though all are sure of its ending with a demand on their purse. While his youth countenances the levity of his conduct, he may thus earn a precarious subsistence. But when age comes on, the gravity of which is incompatible with buffoonery, then will he find himself forsaken by all, condemned in the decline of life to hang upon some rich family whom he once despised, there to undergo all the ingenuity of studied contempt, to be employed only as a spy upon the servants or a bugbear to fright children into duty.